Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning, or do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
Good things come in twos, mate.
They do. That's what I say every time I drop some kids off at the pool.
I thought we were going down the boob road.
The twin breasts of Sheba, as
Yes.
Alan Quatermain.
Because what I was going to say is that if boobs are on twins, then that's the ultimate double feature, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Did I tell you when the last time Jarrett and I were in the US, and we went with Michael Helms, a good friend of ours, in Austin, Texas, there is a Hooters-like chain of restaurants called Twin Peaks, which is themed like the show Twin Peaks, but is also a Hooters-style restaurant. So the girls who work there are all wearing like low-cut tops and short shorts, but in like a David Lynchian way.
How weird. Did you have the cherry pie?
Didn't have. I don't know. I don't think we did have the cherry pie. I mean, we had. So there were some logs. Had some log ladies. No pun intended.
Cup of Joe?
Cup of Joe. Like we had a round, but it's basically a sports bar, so it was mainly like chicken wings and stuff like that. But Twin Peaks theme.
Well, I mean, this intro is not at all what I thought it would be. I've got an idea. Would you like to introduce the show this week?
Sure. Give me the computer. Let me swing that around.
There's nothing written down.
Welcome everybody to Good Movie Monday.
There we go.
The show about nerdy cinematic ramblings. I am your host, Ben Helwig, and I'm joined as ever by my partner in crime, Mr. Glenn Cochran. How's it going, Glenn?
I'm going well, Ben. Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
What have you been up to this week, Glenn?
Oh, just nothing. Whole lot of nothing. Eating. In fact, you and I have just eaten.
We have just
and
eaten.
I'm feeling the reflux.
Well, that's better than before we came up here. You had planned. You said, I'm going to get all the farts out now before we start recording. And then the minute we closed the door, you went, sorry, none of the farts have come out yet. So I've got that to look forward to for the rest of the show.
I regret offering you that position. Of course, welcome to everybody that is new to the show. You can find us wherever you get good podcasts. We especially recommend Newsly. It's the super app that not only gives you podcasts, but all of the news from around the world. They have a special offer too for our listeners. If you use the code Monday without the O, MNDAY, you can get a whole month of premium upgrade for free.
You know what the good thing about Newsly is?
What's that?
When you download like a news story or look at a news story, it'll read it to you just like Mummy used to when you're in bed at night.
And you can change the voices. If you had two mummies, you can have two voices.
Have two mummies.
Yeah.
I'd like to have two mummies in HD. Reading me the news.
Three mummies never works well. Just ask Brendan Fraser.
No. Too many mummies in the kitchen. Spoils the broth.
We've got a belter of a show this week, Ben. In the spirit of double features, we have two guests on this show.
Two guests, because it's the end of the year, and we've got too many. We've had too many people going, we want to be on the show.
Yeah, not enough room for them all.
Not enough room for them. We've had to cram them in like sardines.
And these two are behind some particularly ludicrous creature features.
Lovely.
Which we'll be talking about soon. Stick around because you will hear my chat with the CEO of the Asylum, which is a really cool chat. Can't wait for you to hear it. It's David Rimawi. He's the guy that gave us the Sharknado franchise. He also is, I guess, responsible for the whole Mockbuster turn of phrase. And I'm going to ask him all about that. It's a great chat. If you know what the Asylum is, or even if you don't, it's an education, this chat. It's really fantastic. What else? We're going to talk about Slaughterhouse.
Yes, Slaughterhouse.
Yes, you and I, Ben, we sat down with the director and had a chat about this outrageous film. It's a slasher film with a sloth.
With a sloth. Like in a sorority.
Yes.
It is literally the greatest idea ever when it comes to like if I was a film sales agent or a financier and somebody walked into my office and said, I've got an idea for a film. It's a slasher film, and the killer is a sloth. But wait, it takes place in a sorority. I couldn't give them money fast enough.
That's right.
I feel like that guy who, in my head, it's a Dawson's Creek gag, but it's not a Dawson's Creek gag about the guy who goes to get financing for. And someone, if a listener out there knows where this story is from, please share it in the comments, because I know it's not mine. It's from somewhere. But this filmmaker goes into the producer's office. And he pitches his idea, and the producers just remain silent for like 20 seconds, and then goes, "Are there boobs in it?" And the director's like, "Oh yeah, sure. If you want boobs, yeah, we'll have boobs." He goes, "What will they do?" He goes, "I don't know. Jiggle." He couldn't write that check fast enough.
Oh my goodness!
I'm just taking it back to the intro.
Needless to say, great show. Great show.
Yeah.
We do have our regular guest coming up too. Jarrett Gunn from Monster Fest will be up in a moment to talk about this week's physical media releases. There's quite a bit coming out to talk about, and I'll do my best to give him a proper introduction this week, Ben. Okay?
Oh no, I'm looking forward to it.
And the guys from Bonehead Weekly will be here with their Bonehead Weekly Fun Size, talking about films.
Funsies.
Yeah, films that take place on water.
Well, like striking distance
Oh, there you go. You should be a bonehead.
and deep impact. If not deep impact, deep rising. If they would invite me on the show, I'd be there.
There you go. And before we move on, let's kick it off with a little bit of talk about Ferrari. We caught Ferrari
We did.
at the cinemas last week, a preview screening. Michael Mann's latest thing.
I was actually surprised. Variety magazine put out a post where 3 of their top critics listed their top 10
Yep.
films for the year, and one of them gave this one the coveted number 1 spot.
What? What? Number
Number 1.
Wow.
Best film of the year.
He must be in Michael Mann's pocket. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I would not go so far as to say that. Look, I'm still torn about this one. I've still got to contemplate it a little bit.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Look, to be honest, I think it's boring. I do think it's boring.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I didn't think it was boring. I just thought, who cares?
Yeah. Which to me is boring.
Which,
like, you know.
look, I'm not a car guy, but I thoroughly enjoyed Ford versus Ferrari, and they
Yeah.
skip over because there is a bit in Ford versus Ferrari that kind of intersects
Yes.
with this, with the potential merger between Ford or is this even earlier? This may actually be earlier, so they must have flirted with it a couple of times.
This has quite a timeline with it, but yeah, maybe.
Because basically in this film, so Ferrari, all of them, Maserati, Ferrari, all the Italian car companies, except for Fiat,
yeah.
are having money trouble. They have to win this race that the film is kind of set around in order to help sell cars and keep their factories going. And so in one point in the film, they kind of leak the fact that they're talking to Ford in America in order to kind of squeeze money out of the Italian government or Fiat or someone.
Yep.
In Ford versus Ferrari, they try and buy Ferrari, and at the last minute, and like it seems to be all going through, and in the last minute they screw them over, go with Fiat.
Yep.
And so Ford is furious, and that's basically why they start the Ford racing program.
This film, Michael Manns establishes that relationship, I guess,
Yeah.
before he gets to that. Look, you know, the biggest problem I had with this was Adam Driver. Like, I find him to be such a caricature these days. Like, I don't buy him in these roles. He clearly looked like he was wearing a wig. It gave me flashbacks to the House of Gucci. I just don't find him appealing in these roles. I like him as an actor, but just not in these sort of period pieces.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with him. I thought it was a bit rich to try and get us to think that any European accent's a European accent. So the fact that Penelope Cruz, a middle-aged Spanish woman is, speaking in her own accent is the same as a middle-aged Italian woman.
I just kind of, if you're going to do English as the language, just have them speak their own accents.
But yeah, I thought realistically, this more so than any Ridley Scott movie I've seen, they could have easily cut an hour out of this.
100%.
But I thought the car racing, when they actually were talking about the cars, when it wasn't the family stuff, when it was the actual car stuff, that was interesting.
The business side of it.
The race itself was kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, no,
the crashes were phenomenal.
Yeah, the second half of the film, it really does hit the road literally and runs, and it becomes engaging. I'll give it that. And the countryside racing is phenomenal. And like you said, the crash scenes is
I always
great.
get the feeling with these guys, with guys like Michael Mann and Ridley Scott and stuff. It's like it's like the studios have to make a deal with the devil. They're like, we want the car crash stuff, and he's like, well, I'll give you the car crash stuff if you let me put all this family drama horseshit Oscar fodder in there. And they're like, well, okay, and then they do the thing where they go, well, okay, anything under 100 minutes, you've got complete control over. If it goes over 100, we'll step in.
Yeah.
But now, thanks to Tarantino and Ridley Scott and all these, and Christopher Nolan, they don't have those deals anymore.
I think it's thanks to Michael Mann.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right.
He's the guy that pushed Letterboxd onto VHS. He really pulled a lot of strings.
He's the Christopher Nolan of his day, really.
Yes,
the man who gave us Miami Vice, the TV series. Great show that it was.
And the Keep.
And the Keep.
It's time to lace up and hydrate and stretch it out because we're entering the physical zone. Here's your instructor, Jarrett Garn.
Gentlemen,
Is that better?
that's much better. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today to take you through the physical realm and put you through the stretches and into the game. It's a big week for home entertainment, probably the last big week of the year, because at the moment all the distributors pushing out all the big key titles ahead of Christmas. Obviously, they want to guarantee they get them in stores and get the shelf space. Well, let's face it, there's not many stores that are actually going to be stocking them physically. And on a note, I don't know if I brought it up last week when I was chatting with Ben, but I've noticed that Amazon are now stocking less Australian product. I think it was actually the week prior when I was speaking to both of you guys, and it's a repeat. Like, there's so many big releases that have come out of late that Amazon aren't stocking, including like Barbie and Oppenheimer, which is just mind blowing. That said, they're obviously stocking the international releases, but just not the local releases. So yeah, it's getting harder and harder to find local product, and it's no surprise also that we're not seeing that many pre-orders launch ahead of next year. At the moment, I've got tentative release dates for stuff, but pre-orders aren't really live on the internet. And the question of who's going to be releasing certain Universal and Sony product, when we're going to see those titles filter through all interactive distribution, like Five Nights at Freddy's. Universal's dropping that this week on digital, premium VOD, but at this point in time, there's no physical release date for it. Again, mind-blowing considering this is now Blumhouse's most successful film at the global box office to date.
Yeah.
And there's no physical release date. But in any case, this week we've got some physical releases. In some instances, possibly the last that we'll see for some time. The first one I want to mention is Blue Beetle. It's the DC superhero film that kind of came and went without a fuss. My friend Simon Harcourt, he watched it recently, and he described it as bland and frantic, and I think that sounds fairly accurate, and it sounds like 101.
I'm kind of keen to see it. I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how the guy who directed it, he was one of the big kind of losers of the pandemic, because his first film was like this Sundance hit, and just as it was supposed to get its release, COVID hit, and it just got dumped out. Then he comes back with Blue Beetle as his big studio film. There's a strike, and he gets, the theatrical.
Of course, they can't do half the marketing and that for it.
And this poor guy is just like, now his two big, maybe only chances.
Yeah.
At getting out there and kind of starting a career have been totally quashed by circumstances completely beyond his and the studio's control. Well, maybe not the studio's control.
I'd be curious to see, what the Sundance film is, because again, it's another one of these cases. It sounds like a studio taking, an indie director and putting them in charge of a big studio production. And, obviously not only the whole strike and whatnot, I think the superhero fatigue played a part.
Big time.
In people not wanting to see this. And it's a shame. You're thinking that these indie directors at the moment, it's great to make a quick buck, but do you really want to do this as your next feature, your next big step,
And what an interesting time for like James Gunn to come on board as the new guy at DC, because he's entering the that area right as everyone's done with it. Like, nobody
Absolutely.
gives a fuck
He's going to
anymore.
have to do something pretty special to reinvigorate it. And I mean, yeah, he's proven that he can make interesting and, refreshing superhero films. But when you're taking on an entire slate and you're really only acting as the head, yeah, maybe if he was writing and directing them all, sure. But the fact that he's basically just in charge of, production, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so I haven't seen Blue Beetle, but it is coming out on 4K, Blu-ray, and DVD. And this one only has 3 featurettes on it, so nothing major. They are pretty extensive featurettes, though. And the Dolby Atmos track is available on the 4K as well as the Blu-ray, which is pretty good. In all honesty, I don't think I'll ever watch this movie. I still haven't watched The Flash, and I actually want to see that movie. But Blue Beetle, I can happily, I'll give that one a miss. Now, the next one I want to mention might be one of the last Sony titles we see for a while, and it's the Equalizer 3, and that's coming out on 4K, Blu-ray, and DVD. As is the case with Sony, however, you're only going to get Dolby Atmos on the 4K. They like to keep it as a sort of premium, sort of thing for the 4K release. However, it does have a lot of special features. There's deleted scenes, I think about 20 minutes worth. There's 5 featurettes and even a music video on there. And I believe there's a specialist retailer out there that's got a steelbook as well, if that's your kind of thing. But yeah, I'm keen. I'm actually really keen to check this one out. I didn't do the digital rental of it during that whole Black Friday period, so I'll probably end up picking it up, and I'll probably pick it up around the Christmas period, maybe when there's a sale out there and I can get it for a little less than retail, because I don't want to pay $40 sight unseen for a film. But given I like the previous 2, I'm pretty sure I'll like
fun.
this 3rd installment.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm shocked
Excellent.
that music videos are still like a thing that come out with movies. Even
I know, it's baffling. Like, because you rarely see music videos in this day and age unless you're seeing them on YouTube or they play in the background of your Apple Music or Spotify or something of that nature. It's kind of like a completely dead art, the music video, in terms of crossing it over with a film.
Although, we're a lot older now. Like, when we were young, like, we were all over music because we're interested in the videos. Like,
yeah.
But look, I only want to see them if, like, Denzel Washington is there, like
Yes, like Billy Ocean.
Yeah, like Billy Ocean.
And they've got synchronized dancing or something.
Chevy
I'm
Chase and
totally
Paul
in
Simon.
for that.
Yeah, I want to see.
Yes,
I
I'm in for that.
The cast of Equalizer 3. Getting down to whatever. I can't even think of what. The music was not super impactful.
No.
That's why they've stuck the music video on there, because they're hoping to get a few more streams on the old Spotify.
What's the name of that famous Italian song from the 70s that has no actual lyrics? Like, he just sings gibberish? It's got to be that.
Oh, that one where he made up the language.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look forward to checking it out eventually. But yeah,
have you heard of that
do.
Song? Have you heard of this song?
No.
This guy, he was convinced that at the time in Italy that they just loved anything American. They didn't give a shit what it was about. Just the fact that it was English language or American was enough. So he just made up this song full of nonsense words. Like, he just.
But that's amazing.
I'll end this video with that video.
It is
fantastic.
Amazing film clip. And it went to number 1. Like, he did it as a joke. And it was this, massive hit in Italy.
It's a killer song. It's a killer song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm very keen. It kind of reminds me. Do you remember that? It was like a commercial. I think it was obviously, I don't know if it was Norwegian or something, commercial that came out in the early 90s. And it was always on one of those, greatest, commercials ever. And it was the family driving in a car, and they're all singing like, "I'm going to fuck you in the ass. I'm going to fuck you in the ass." That's what it reminds me of. And they were just like gleefully singing it as a family. I love it. So yeah, Equalizer 3. The other one I want to mention is the Expendables, not to be confused with the Expandables, which is also available in the trouser department of your local retailer. But the Expendables 4 is coming on home entertainment. Roadshow are releasing it, and they're actually doing it on 4K, Blu-ray, and DVD. And this one's actually got loaded with special features. It's probably the first new release title in a while that's actually got an audio commentary track on it. And in addition to that, it's got I think 2 featurettes and a trailer. But the good news is the Dolby Atmos on the 4K and Blu-ray also. maybe I should catch up with these movies over the
Yeah.
Christmas
Do you,
break.
look,
you know,
do you reckon that this is going to get a fifth installment? Because if it doesn't, then I might even invest in the 4-pack. But if
The
there's going to be a
4-pack,
fifth
yeah.
one, like I don't want a
Well,
4-pack only to have a fifth one come along.
it's if it's selling on digital, maybe, and maybe if there's physical sales,
'Cause
because I don't think anyone saw it theatrically. It kind of
believe-
came
Yeah.
and went.
I believe this new one is like a passing of the baton, and that Statham's taking over the franchise now.
And wasn't there talk at a point they were going to do a female Expendables? Yeah, no. I think I read that.
It was called the Expendables, Belle.
And then nothing happened with that. That sort of, yeah, they saw what happened with Ghostbusters, and then they're like, oh, maybe not. These movies don't make enough money for us to make any less. So maybe we just nix that idea.
I'm 100% with Glenn on this because I've got my Indiana Jones box set with Crystal Skull in it, and now I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I've got 2 Planet of the Apes movies that are in a style, and then the third one in a completely different style, which upsets me no end.
Yep.
It really gets the OCD going. So they need to let us know what the planned.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, I rarely buy any sets. I tend to buy individually. And then even then, you're kind of cursed by the fact that they'll change the packaging design, you know, or they come out through different distributors. Or even recently, I just picked up the new Evil Dead film, Evil Dead Rise. I finally picked it up. I got it during the Black Friday sale. Got it for like maybe $16, and I was pretty happy with that. Anyway, it was pictured with the slip cover. Not that I'm big on slips, but I just happen to own every other Evil Dead film on 4K with a slip cover. And then this thing comes along and it's got no slip cover. And then I'm all like, I bought this one. It doesn't even have the commentary. I just bought it because it was cheap. And now it doesn't even... And that kind of... That bugs me a little. Like, that bugs me a little.
Do you get rid of all the other slips? Do you get rid of the slips, or do you...
Well, I could probably sell them and make a good amount of money, you know? But anyway, such is life. Now, the last 2 releases I do want to mention, I won't go into too great a detail. The first one's Retribution, that's coming out from Studio Canal with Liam Neeson. Mm-hmm. You did an interview with the director. Was it...
Yep.
What's the name of it? Ah, that's right, Nimrod Antal.
Yep.
I watched this because I didn't realize this went from theaters and then within like maybe less than a month went to Prime just as normal streaming content, well ahead of the physical release. I was shocked to see it on there.
Yeah.
And realized I didn't have to pay extra to watch it. I watched it and I enjoyed it, you know. I didn't realize at the time that it was a remake, or the fact that there had already been like maybe 3 remakes prior to this one coming along.
Yep.
It was fine, you know, it was enjoyable enough. It was great to watch on Prime. But yeah, it's finally coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, which is cool. And then the last one I want to mention is one that I think you guys are going to be delighted about. My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 on Blu-ray and DVD. No 4K for this one, and it does retain that theatrical key art that I know you both love.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's happening.
Backing it up a bit. Speaking of Liam Neeson, did you see this week that he's making Ice Road 2 in Walhalla in Victoria, that town that I recently took photos in?
Damn, no, I haven't seen the first one. I think it's one of the few Liam Neeson ones I haven't seen of his recent stint of like endless action movies.
Yeah, so this one...
Yeah, all right, I'll definitely check it out. Because
Walhalla's going to be standing in for Nepal, I think, because this is all about a bus accident in the mountains of Nepal, and it's a rescue sort of story.
Oh, that's interesting. Have you ever seen any of the videos or photos on the internet about Liam Neeson? You know, apparently likes to go out and have a bit of a drink, but he also
we've had this conversation on the show before.
Yeah, uses his pants as a toilet.
Yeah, they showed me.
Yeah, it's shocking. Like it seems like it's a legit thing. But bless him, you know what I mean? Like he's getting a photo with a fan, you know, regardless. And he must be conscious of the fact that
he's full-blown AIDS, right? So
yes, that's all I could keep saying, because Retribution as an action-packed film is a fairly slow-paced action film. You know, it's pretty much set entirely in the car to a degree.
Yep.
And all I could help but do was every now and again quote, you know, I've got AIDS. Full-blown AIDS. That was terrific. But so it is a good week of releases across, you know, home entertainment, and there is more releases coming out next week, but these are the big key releases prior to Christmas. And then I'm dead curious to see how next year will fare up in terms of releases. I mean, the indies have told us what's coming, and I know a handful of the big studio titles coming. But yeah, it's an interesting time. One thing I didn't raise actually that I think I might have spoken to you guys privately about was the fact that I didn't realize that Universal and Sony Sony had left the UK market. So now Sony is only releasing theatrically in the UK and sub-licensing their home entertainment to different vendors. So yeah, it's a strange time. The last release they had was the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie. They haven't had anything since, and No Hard Feelings is coming out in January through another distributor. So yeah, it's an interesting time because it feels like we're throwing back to how it all started once upon a time, where these studios were theatrical distributors but not home entertainment distributors and sub-licensed it. So it's kind of done this whole, I don't know, 360, 180, 360, I don't know. Done one or the other. But anyway.
A turnabout.
Yeah, it's turned about. But anyway, gentlemen, that is all I have for you this week. So until next time, stay physical.
All right, well, thank you to Jarrett there, because that is actually the last PE class of the year in that form. He's going to give us a bit of a rundown of what's coming out over the summer on our final episode, which is next week, Ben. Final episode of the year.
I can't believe it's here already.
I know. I can't believe it, and I'm grateful at the same time.
I am looking forward to the promise that the show's over. We're on break till March.
Yep.
And then possibly by the 23rd of December, getting the thing. I've been thinking about next year's show with all your ideas.
Yeah, that'll probably happen.
I'm not going to talk about the show until at least February. No.
That's not possible. Not considering I am committed to doing some kind of stuff in between, just little things I get bored. And
we are going to do our our top 10 of the year thing in the new year.
Plus another secret episode that we've got planned. But anyway, let's jump into the Facebook thing that we do where we ask you a question. And this week it was, no rules, curate your ultimate double feature, and kind of in brackets, make us want to be there. All right, so that's what I put out to Facebook. And we had some comments. Who do you think was first out of the gate?
Who could it be?
If you're thinking Brody Kane, you'd be correct.
I'm hoping it's Brody.
Yeah, so he suggested Frailty and Pin. And
What
now
a fucking banger.
he
of
added
double.
a plastic-coated nightmare, double feature of how not to parent.
No, that's the trick. Maybe with Pin, it's been a long time since I've seen Pin. But in Frailty, well, I don't want to spoil it. But Frailty is the best way to pair it. Bill Paxton's on the money.
TJ Bowser, podcast host from the States, has chimed in with this. I love this one. 2 trauma-acquired titles, Blades and Bloodhook.
And Bloodhook, right.
I'd love to see that. In fact, I've got them, so I should just do it at home and double feature.
I've got Bloodhook. I don't have Blades.
So good. I love Blades. It's Jaws on a golf course.
Yeah.
Our good mate Simon Harcourt came in with Amadeus and Showgirls 2.
They, pennies from heaven, they naturally go together. I do, if the goal was to make me want to be there, Simondo has achieved that goal.
Then we had Marcy Papandrea chime in with
some good ones.
No Retreat, No Surrender, and The Last Dragon.
Yes. Yes.
I will note right now that it's clear you've been paying attention this week.
I have. I always pay attention. It's just that my memory's so bad that 5 minutes after I do, I can't remember it.
Easier to say you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, much easier. It's my shtick.
So they're good ones. No Retreat, No Surrender. I'd love to see that on the big screen.
Look, 2 faux Bruce Lee instructed martial arts movies.
Yep.
One with a great with a great dance sequence. Well, actually, no, both of them have great dance sequences. The best thing about The Last Dragon is I don't know the actor's name, but he ended up playing Lord Bowler in Briscoe County Jr., the Bruce Campbell TV series. But he's like the Shogun of Harlem. Yeah. He's one of my all-time favorite characters in cinema history.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that one, Marcy. Good to see you on our page there. James Thomas chimed in with, I'll read out what he said. Going to go with something light, so this classic. And he's done Brain Donors.
Nice.
And then the chaser is Bergman's The Seventh Seal. Both go-to movies depending on my mood.
I would have thought he would have done Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and The Seventh Seal.
Yeah.
Like that's a double.
That certainly is. But Brain Donors is a bang. I like
Best
that one.
3 out of 5. Damn right.
Aston Elliott came in with Billy Jack and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Cliff Booth double feature.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a banger.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Which Billy Jack was it?
Just Billy Jack.
Billy Jack. Because the first one's actually called Born Losers. And it is fucking extreme. It's great. It's a really, like the ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it has some real shocking stuff in it, but it's great.
And then Cameron Doncaster weighed in. I guess he might be dyslexic or something because he must have read triple feature, not double. So he's gone Reform Schoolgirls, Dracula Sucks, and Stiff Competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the last two are pornos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we would expect. And there's photos of them.
There's photos of them.
So he does own them.
2 Vinegar Syndrome releases, I
Yeah,
believe.
so there we go. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. That is the last one we will ask you to comment on until the new year, so thank you. Much appreciate that. Let's really build on that next year and get a lot of interaction with you guys. But how about you and I go back and forth with some of our ultimate double features, Ben?
This is really weird, this part. I found the no rules aspect of it really difficult. It's like when somebody asks me what's your favorite film or what's your 10 favorite films. I'm like, I can't even think. There's too many.
Now, mine are themed, right? But there's no rules on which direction we can theme it. Like, it's just pretty much your dream double feature.
I just was kind of like, what movies am I kind of in the mood to watch now?
Yeah. Well, my third double feature is not going to come as any surprise. But let's kick it off. I'll go first. I want to see, and Zach at the Astor, if you're listening, we want these programmed. A good movie Monday calendar would be great. Let's start with 1987's Walk Like a Man.
Yeah, right.
Backed up with The Wrong Guys from 1988. So we've got Walk Like a Man with Howie Mandel, Christopher Lloyd, Colleen Camp, Cloris Leachman, and Amy Steele.
I believe named after a Four Seasons song.
Yeah, and it's all about a guy that gets lost in the wilderness as a baby, and he comes back having been raised by wolves, and he has to be sort of taught how to be a man. Very funny movie. And The Wrong Guys, of course, Louis Anderson, Richard Belzer, Richard Lewis, Tom Thomason, John Goodman, Franklin AJ. Like, it is just a who's who of comics at the time.
They're all dressed up as Boy Scouts on the front cover.
Yeah, that's right. And they get together for their Boy Scout reunion.
Yeah.
Very funny movie, something that I used to love as a child, and I just would love to see those back to back.
On the big screen.
On the big screen. Because the whole premise behind The Wrong Guys was they all work at the comic store or wherever it was. They wondered why they weren't getting movie offers, and they thought, well, let's just all make our own movie. And that's what it was. It's an odd one to make under those circumstances.
Yeah.
But go for
when they could have made Vibes.
But it's like a PG movie. It is a family-friendly comedy. Like, and these are R-rated comics. Like, very odd.
But that is... Hollywood has a history of doing this. Like, and I kind of always point to the careers of David Spade and Rob Schneider.
Who
kind of made their names by being... adult comics.
Outrageous too, yeah.
And then they put them in these films where they're the lovable doofus. And you're like, I just like them because they had a smart mouth.
Yeah.
And now you're putting them in stuff where they don't have the smart mouth. Like all those SNL movies, really.
Yeah, totally.
They just try and reach the widest demographic possible.
Even Adam Sandler, kind of family-friendly movies.
Well, that's how he started.
But in between, he has these R-rated albums, like really, really X almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Featuring those guys.
Okay, well, look, I've got a bunch of these, but I've gone with classics, with movie classics, because I love them, and I've gone on a bit of a bent lately. So I'm going to start things off with Alfred Hitchcock's 39 Steps.
Wow.
Followed by Fritz Lang's Ministry of Fear.
Jesus.
Like serious movies. They're both fucking great. They both have to do with spy rings. Mm-hmm. The 39 Steps is like the...
That's a task. That's a task going to that double feature.
No, they're like, I think they're 75, 80 minutes.
No, they're
films.
Great films. I love both of them. But to me, that's a task going to watch, classic movies. I don't know.
Really?
It's a harder watch than something contemporary.
I find that most of the time I find these a lot easier to watch than
Maybe what
like
makes it
new
a
stuff.
task for me is I've been with modern audiences with those type of films, and I can hear the chatter and the restlessness.
Well, they're all wrong.
Yes. Why are you fucking there in the first place?
But Ministry of Fear, like, if there's anyone who's comparable to Hitchcock, it is Fritz Lang.
Totally.
This movie, like the premise, the whole setup of this film is that Stuart Granger is been in a mental institution. The film starts with him being released, the day of his release from a mental institution where he's been locked up for 2 years. and they don't really disclose why.
Mm-hmm.
And he's decides that he's going to go back to. Is set in the UK. He's going to go back to London. And on the way to the train station, there's a little kind of county fair raising money for like war orphans.
Mm-hmm.
And he stops in, and like they've got this cake guessing competition. Like you have to guess the weight of this cake, and everyone's super happy with the cake because it's made with real eggs. Because this is during you know
hard times,
the shortages. And he gets pushed by this elderly woman to go and get his fortune read in this fortune teller's tent, and he does. And she says, "Look, you know, I only tell you the past and the present because it's illegal for me to tell you the future."
Yeah.
And she kind of says something, and he kind of sets him off, and he said, "Oh, forget about that. Just tell me my future." And she's like, "Oh, well, in that case, you must go back to the cake guessing competition and tell them that it's 4 pounds and 15 ounces." And he's like, okay. Just thinking, you know, so he goes back to try. It costs him, you know, a penny or whatever it is, and he guesses it right. And just as he does, this other guy comes in, goes straight to the fortune teller tent, and comes out, and they all, you know, everyone kind of realize he wins the cake, and he's just as he's about to leave. This other guy turns up, and then quickly the organisers of the thing run after him and go, "Sorry, you actually didn't get the closest number. The cake was actually this other weight, and it belongs to that guy over there." And he's like, "Oh, well, in that case, no, I still got it right because his first guess happened to be closer than the other guys." And it just sets off this massive chain of events. And it turns out to be this international like Nazi spy ring that he's stumbled into because he's just walked into this fair and won a cake. It's just amazing. There's seances and you know, chases and bombings and like people getting trapped in fallout shelters and stuff. It's just this amazing film.
His film's also really good to look at.
Yeah,
stylish,
really stylish.
Yeah.
Like even in black and white. Like I just watched it
Especially
on
black
my
and white,
last time I saw it. I watched it on my projector screen, which
Yeah.
is like 100 inch. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect for it.
Awesome. Well, I'm backing up that amazing double feature with a movie from 1989 called Meet the Hollow Heads. And I'm backing that up, or doubling that up with Meet the Deedles. All right.
I've never heard of Meet the Hollow Heads.
Meet the Hollow Heads, it is batshit bonkers. So I'll tell you the cast. It's John Glover in the lead. Juliette Lewis plays his daughter. You got Bobcat Goldthwait, Anne Ramsey, Scott Donovan, Joshua John Miller from Near Dark. And it's essentially like a modern Jetsons. So it's a futuristic family. It's got a really stodgy production design, almost like Pluto Nash. You know, that weird sort of, it's a soundstage, but it's not made to look real at the same time.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. And it's just this crazy family that have all these futuristic things. I think they've got a robot maid, if my memory serves me. And John Glover just going over the top. If you thought him in Gremlins 2 was over the top, in this he's really over the top. Meet the Deedles needs no explanation. Like, it's just a really fun movie. I think a lot of people have forgotten. Paul Walker.
Yeah.
What happened to the other guy, though?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually thought when you first said the first one, I thought you were going to pair it with The Stupids.
I almost did, because Meet the Hollowheads is very much like the Stupids,
Stupids.
and that's the first thing that did come to my mind when I put this together. And then I thought, no, I'll do the meat thing. Meet the Deedles, Meet the Hollowheads. And I do think Meet the Hollowheads had a different name in some parts of the world. I just can't remember what it is, but that's how I knew it.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a double feature to Zach. Whack those on the big screen, mate.
Look, my second, I'll go modern for my second one, a bit more modern. And like none of these are light movies, really. I mean, they kind of are, but this is one I would love to see at the Astor. It'll never happen because I'm pretty sure they're different distributors, which is the golden rule to double features when you do it at a cinema. But it would be Wonder Boys and Finding Forrester.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Two movies about writing. Two movies that basically inspire you to want to write.
Yep.
And they're both excellent.
I love them both.
They're both great. One, one of the latter Sean Connery films in Finding Forrester, and what I would arguably say, probably Michael Douglas's last great film. Like, he's been in some good stuff since, but this would be his last great one.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you on that one.
I mean, it's based on a book that won a Pulitzer, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
The Michael Chambon.
Well, okay, so this is the one that is no surprise to anybody that's listening that has been listening throughout the years. I am going to simply do an office favourite, Warlock Armageddon and Hellraiser 3. Yeah. They are behind me on every
I was gonna
episode we
say,
record.
While you're saying this, the posters are literally behind you.
Yes, and therefore I stare at them every day because opposite me, behind Ben, is a mirror. Right? So I'm looking at those posters every day. I adore the films, both directed by Anthony Hickox, who passed away this year. Julian Sands passed away this year. I just think this is a great double banger. Whack 'em on the big screen.
See, whereas I would like to see Warlock and Hellraiser as a double. Actually, just Warlock. I don't really need to watch Hellraiser again, but maybe Hellraiser 2.
Oh, I mean, you could do Warlock 1 and 2. That'd be a double feature right there. But no. Because
I really like Warlock. I don't remember Warlock Armageddon.
Warlock 1 is fantastic.
It's fantastic, yeah.
Who was it? Years ago I was chatting with it was David Tui, who did Pitch Black and all that. He wrote
and
Warlock.
funnily enough, wrote a large chunk of The Fugitive.
Yeah, totally.
I was just watching that. Making a Fugitive was a shit show. YouTube
yeah,
channel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was on the show a couple of years ago, and I forgot that conversation was on the show. And I just said to him, Warlock, that's a movie that I hold very near and dear, and he just doesn't want to talk about it at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think he was that involved. I think his version of the script is probably very, very different to what made it to the film, which quite often is.
That is the big problem when it comes to, especially Hollywood movies, not so much on the indies.
Yeah.
But regardless of how the Writers Guild work a lot of this shit out.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, the person who's credited for writing it may not have had that much to do with the stuff you like.
Because there is not a lot of information on Warlock out there, right? So you see his name as a writer. You're going to think he's a writer.
He's a writer,
you know?
That's right.
Anyway, so there you go. Steve Miner directed that one too, by the way. Yes, it is a really, really good film. All right, your final one.
Did you just do your final one?
Yeah, Hellraiser and Warlock.
That was your final one. Okay, so my final one. Okay, it's a tough one. I've actually got 3.
Yep.
3 double features. I'm just going to breeze through the last 2 just quickly, just because I did them.
Mm-hmm.
But my main one is going to be The Quiet Man with John Wayne
Yes.
and Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Basically, because they both end with fights with people fighting through a town.
What an odd double.
They're both set in Ireland.
No rules.
They're both set in Ireland. They're both set in Irish small towns, small villages. I've been trying to convince former guest on the show, Kat Fitzpatrick, who goes to Ireland regularly because her sister lives there, to visit the Quiet Man Museum, because where they shot the film, they've actually set up this little museum, which is slowly going out of business because nobody remembers the Quiet Man anymore. But it is I'm not going to talk about Darby O'Gill anymore, but Quiet Man, basically the premise of the Quiet Man is that John Wayne, American John Wayne, comes over to Ireland to kind of explore his roots. There he meets and kind of falls in love with Maureen O'Hara, who has been picked as the potential bride for the local town tough guy, who scares off any other man that comes anywhere near him. John Wayne, being John Wayne, doesn't give a shit and courts her. They kind of fall in love, but every time the guy challenges him to a fight, John Wayne backs down and doesn't want to fight, refuses to fight. Gets to the point where even Maureen O'Hara is like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Is he a coward? I can't marry a coward. And then as the film progresses, it comes out that back in New York, John Wayne had got into a fight in a bar with somebody and almost, I think, killed them. Yeah, it was self-defense, but he almost goes to prison. He almost gets charged with murder. So he's sworn off fighting. Yeah, but then it comes good. Decides sometimes a man has to fight, and these 2 guys. Literally, for I think the last 30, 40 minutes of the film, beat the bejesus out of each other through the entirety of this Irish village, with the entire population of the village standing on the sidelines cheering them on. It is just this amazing film.
Love it. Excellent stuff, mate.
And my other 2, the ones that I put together, I got a war double, The Dirty Dozen and Where Eagles Dare, 2 of the greatest war mission movies ever made. Definitely. And the other one is I can't remember the guy's name now. It's The Myth of the American Sleepover and Under the Silver Lake. Both directed by somebody, Mitch, Stephen, John, the guy who directed It Follows. Yeah. But
Mitchell.
David, he's a 3-namer. He's a 3-namer. I think, as much as I love It Follows, I think it overshadows his other 2 films, which are just as good, if not better. So you should check them out.
I am everything that I said I am. Keep my shit tight, man. Motherfucking Hoover Dam. And I ain't cracking anytime soon. My mindset is fine tuned. This world will be mine soon. Showdown in high noon, sharp as a harpoon. Crash like a monsoon, style like a costume. I'm constantly awesome. Voice fresh as spring, yo. My beats about to blossom. Caution, get out the pit when I'm moshing. My friends are a high, yeah, I'm nice and I got 'em that way. We bows on parade, my bowls full of weed, man. Higher than a pterodactyl, you can call me caveman. California raisin, hear me through the grapevine. Dirty BB days again, but man, I'm feeling just fine. I be out in Vegas while your bitches just a state line. I ain't never stopping till I finally feel I got mine.
We're never gonna lay down, we ain't going nowhere. You can come and give a try. Our bond is our blood and thicker than water. Like Goonies never say die. Oh, cause Goonies never say oh. Cause Goonies never say die.
I keep it cool, right? I'm like an avalanche. I get stupid when I want to, Rain Man. I keep it flowing now. I do the rain dance. Man, everybody loves me, call me Rain Man. Here I go. I be getting so high like I'm standing on my tippy toes. Spread my wings and fly, but I got 2 arms where my wings should go. Hungry as an animal, tearing down the devil's door. He's selling me a soul for all the lyrics in my arsenal. Eyes red, lungs full, half-master flagpole. I'm about to kill this beat and throw it in a drowning pool. Hairline style cool, lyrics fresh, jet fuel. On this track, no looking back, I'm hippie like a hacky sack. Smoother than a Cadillac, leave MCs needing Medivac. Yeah, I lost my shit, but bitch, you know I got my passion back. Locked inside my temper trap, I'm laughing at y'all pussycats. Cause I ain't never stopping till the top is what I'm looking at.
We're never gonna lay down, we ain't going nowhere. You can come and give a try. Our bond is our blood and thicker than water. Like Goonies never say die. Oh, cause Goonies never say oh. Cause Goonies never say die. Okay, listen up, kiddos. I'm a shark, you're a minnow. Balls on your chin, call your bitch Jay Leno. Don't go swimming, cause your shit sounds minstrel. And we ain't here to play Dr. Dre South Central. Spit barbiturates to make you rub your tits and shit. Have your body moving, shaking hips with throwing fits. Willie sitting high, just as out of time as 9. Now I'm flowing my DeLorean. Marty McFly, yeah, anybody home? 2 spliffs to the dome. It's a headshot, dreadnought, noobs get pwned. Yeah, I fucking said it, it was so last year. I got a pack full of gear and a trunk full of beer. We're never gonna lay down, we ain't going nowhere. You can come and give a try. Our bond is our blood and thicker than water. Like Goonies never say die. We're never gonna lay down, we ain't going nowhere. You can come and give a try. Our bond is our blood and thicker than water. Like Goonies never say die. Oh, lay down, we ain't going nowhere. You can come and give a try. Goonies never say oh. Never say die.
Sloth Revenge by the Dirty Heads, a sloth song. I went looking for sloth songs and there were plenty to choose.
I'm shocked that you found a sloth song.
There's lots out there.
People love those, the 3. I mean, I thought you were going to have to go with maybe the was it the 3-toed sloth, the goodies?
Yeah,
the goodies song?
That was amongst them. But anyway, tying that in with Slaughterhouse, which we will get to that interview shortly. But first, let's do the Asylum one. David Rimawi, as I said, about to chat with him. Let's talk about Asylum for a moment. So this is the little independent company that, like I said, they're responsible for the mockbuster. They didn't come up with the term. I think a journalist came up with that and they were stuck with it. Yeah. They kind of embraced it. They don't love it, but I reckon secretly they must. Because it's
anything that gets term. There's no such thing as bad press. No. Especially when you're like a small indie making movie stemming with a budget with a $100,000 budget or something.
So in this chat, I do bring up the mockbuster, and if you watch the video interview on our socials next week, you'll see a little bit of frustration in his face when I do it. He's like, "Oh, okay, yes, okay, mockbuster." But let's go through the mockbusters and explain what they are. So this is essentially when Hollywood would bring out a really big movie, they would cash in and bring out a really small movie that is very similar.
That apes them. Yeah.
So we have when Transformers came out, they made Transmorphers.
Yep.
When Pacific Rim came out, they made Atlantic Rim. I think that's one of my favorites. And I love the movie. Atlantic Rim was really good.
Okay, it can't have been worse than Pacific Rim, let's be honest.
I enjoyed that one. Come on, mate. And when Snakes on a Plane came out. They did Snakes on a Train.
Snakes on a Train. Was that because it rhymes with plane, or they
course.
they couldn't conceive of a more, because you can jump off a train.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? It just rhymes.
Like, why didn't they do they could do Snakes on a Hovercraft?
Well, the other thing too is quite often these are mockbusters in title only. Quite often the stories aren't related at all. Some of them very much are. When Paranormal Activity came out, they did Paranormal Entity.
But you know what the best thing about Asylum is? Apart, even outside of the puns and the mockbuster whole thing, whoever does their graphic design, whoever does their poster design, is a freaking genius.
Yes. You go to their website, so theasylum.cc, click on films. It's got every film they've done and all those posters beside each other. It's glorious.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what Charles Band does with his stuff. Like, quite often the posters are the real draw card.
Well, that was the thing. I think Mark Hartley told me he has a pack of Canon, like a Canon sales thing, where they would just basically come up with a title, do the poster,
and then come up with a film.
And then if they got international sales to budget to finance it, then they would write the film.
Yep. And speaking of that, we do discuss in a moment how they come up with their films.
Yeah.
I just want to go through these titles because these are fun. Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies. We had Alien versus Hunter. I like this one. I Am Omega. That had Mark Dacascos in it because if you don't know, I Am Legend is sort of kind of based on the same book as
Omega Man. Yeah, which, funnily enough, is I Am Legend.
What
they're all based on.
Yeah. What else? Android Cop, when RoboCop came out. Oh,
but there's already Cyborg Cop in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true.
And Gladiator Cop.
This one's great. The Day the Earth Stopped.
Yeah.
And Top Gunner, that's one of their recent ones.
Nice.
But then, of course, they've made their standalone cash-in sort of, what do you call these? They're just creature feature franchises that aren't mockbusters, actually. So Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus then had a bunch of sequels.
All of those.
Sharknado had, I think, 6 films. Two-Headed Shark Attack, that went up to, I think, 6-headed Shark Attack.
I think 7, 8-headed Shark.
Yeah. Zombies 1 and 2. Aquarium of the Dead, which is the sequel to Zombies 1 and 2. And then...
the third part of the trilogy.
This one's great. Meth Gator.
Meth Gator, yeah.
So that obviously was a Cocaine Bear rip.
Well, because I know that, look, basically Asylum are the kind of modern version of the drive-in kind of Al Adamson type films. And these things used to do really good business. I remember in the UK and in the US at Walmart, where they were like $10.
Yep.
And people who, like Insomniacs, used to buy them pre-Netflix. And then Netflix came along and they did really well in the early days of Netflix, when Netflix were buying, trash, but, like cheaper libraries just to flesh out their service. And then now they've all been dropped off. And now these movies are like, you have to thank God for Tubi.
Well, that's right.
Because, that's where you can see a lot of this stuff now.
I believe Viewlorium.
And Viewlorium.
Whatever their name is now, they've changed their name. The interesting thing is that Hollywood actually tried to sue them in the early days. When Transmorphers came out, Spielberg tried to take them and didn't win, simply because they argued Hollywood has been doing this for years already, and they have. But
even so, like the basic tenet of copyright protection is that parody is 100% allowed. It is the major exception to the copyright law. These movies are 100% parody.
Yep, absolutely. So they were the victors in that one. And David Rimawi himself, he came from Roadshow in Australia. He was like an executive at Roadshow before he packed up and went to Hollywood to start the Asylum.
Right, so he's an Aussie.
No, he's an American that came here as an executive. Anyway, as you can guess, the Asylum is a fantastic deep dive that's well worth taking. Here's a chat, fascinating stuff, and then we'll see you on the other side. Well, thanks for making time. Like, I'm really chuffed to be chatting with you, if I'm being honest. I've been singing the Asylum's praises for over 15 years. I think since Transmorphers and Alien vs. Hunter came out, like, I've been on board.
It's been a while,
I think the fact that you guys are still kicking ass is incredible. I hold you up with, like, Roger Corman and Lloyd Kaufman as these sort of indie demigods. Like, I really, really love what you do. Has the Asylum become so much bigger than you anticipated when you began?
Let's just say that we weren't certain going into it that we were going to build the recognizable brand that we have. and again, I don't know how wide it is, if it is as far-reaching as Trauma and Corman, but we're certainly in great company.
Yeah, definitely. I used to own a video store, and I reckon I personally kept you guys in business because I had multiple copies of everything you had on my shelf.
Was it Video Easy or was it Block? Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah, it was a Video Easy store, and I went independent and then became my own store and just dealt personally through or directly through Peacock, who you were dealing with at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and your latest one, Megalodon the Frenzy, like it's an absolute banger. It's probably the most fun that the Megalodon movies have been. Do you find that people are still lapping up the shark stuff? What is it about sharks?
So first of all, yes, and I think we've definitely moved toward what we're calling a more realistic shark movie, moreover, and less the Sharknado. But an incredible villain. Great lines, great look, the black eyes. We know what it is, and it's unapologetic. Perhaps we make it a little more man-hungry than maybe it really is. But
Yeah. Do you get out to conventions at all? Like, how do you gauge what the fans are after? Like, what made you want to switch to the more realistic as opposed to the Sharknadoes?
Right. Well, first of all, of course, we saw, with ratings and maybe certain companies, certain territories weren't. Maybe we'll pass on Sharknado 6, but so we're seeing that. So we knew we wrung it dry, but we're noticing perhaps maybe I'll give some. Definitely strong credit to not only the shadows, but how many miles deep? I forget the
47. 47.
a clearly summer, and I have to give, of course, to Discovery. Clearly, the summer belongs to sharks and remains that way.
Yeah,
we're just a very small part of it. But they continue to be huge hits for us and others who are in them.
Yeah, absolutely. And people, I don't know whether you embrace it or not, but people have, suggested that the Asylum is synonymous with mockbusters. Does that sit well with you, or do you hold it proudly?
Okay, so I think as I understand it, my partner Paul Bales, David Latz, also a third partner. But Paul, he knows the publication that first coined the phrase might have times. But and so in relation to us, so we have to own it. It's not what I use all the time. I'm more saying drafting or. But a mockbuster, we definitely have embraced and do own it. But number one, as you well know, it's not a strategy we came up with at all. It's something that was there in AIP back in the day, in Corman, of course. We even say like news does it. If there's even NPR when Barbie came out, they had their own, the true story of Barbie. These huge marketing budgets create an interest and an awareness, and then you just jump on board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a regular conversation on our show. Is we go right back to the the 40s when Hollywood was piggybacking off each other, all the studios and whatnot. It's nothing new. So this question applies to, I guess, all of the Asylum movies, but projects like Megalodon come about. How does it happen? Like, do you have a brainstorm session? Is there do you get word that another Hollywood movie's coming out? Here's what we can maybe do. How does it all come together?
Okay, so one answer is yes. We do see what's coming out. primarily, from the major studios, but also it could be some event. Back in the day, the conspiracy theorists were going crazy with 2012 being the end of the world, and boy, did we do quite well with that. But yeah, I think primarily what makes the most sense for us and the distributors we work with, the platforms, is if it's based on a big studio film, because again, there's an awareness that's created and an interest, and all forms of media, including us, tag along. The other answer is that in actuality, it isn't like we're going into a brain, isn't as if we're going into, a session internally where we come up with these ideas. Brains. It's really that we have conversations with our buyers, primarily our Japanese distributor. We've been working with at least 15 years, probably more. And they'll tell us, what about a zombie zoo? And that's how we came up with Zombies. And look, Shark with Two Heads. That's how Two-Headed Shark Attack came about, and the many sequels. So it's often conversations from our buyers.
Right.
I
better be careful not to let any ideas slip here. Like, you might take them. So your director, Brendan Petrizzo, I think his name is, he's done a great job on this one. He's made a few films for you guys. How do you select directors? Is it whoever isn't currently on a production, or do you have people in mind for each one?
Let me talk about him.
Okay.
He works at the studio himself. He let's call him an original fanboy, and he'll tell me, yeah, I remember when I rented and watched this one, and I'm like, oh, I apologize, I know we screwed up on that one. He's like, you owe me for that one. And specifically with him, it's come to the point where if I can't remember a movie that we did 17 years ago, he'll go, oh, that's that one. And so somewhere along the way in working on our sets, he said, look, let me direct one. And he knows the model so well, and the rich history that he's become one of our regulars. But really it is the avenue of coming from editing, acting, direct, DPing, so that avenue, or we meet people along the way, and they're ready to take that leap, the first one, or they've been around and maybe they want to do something fast and fun.
I'm actually really good mates with Michael Su, who's one of your newer directors. I still haven't seen his new Transmorphers yet, but I'm dying to. But I've known him for 12 years or so now, so I was really excited to see him on board.
Did he tell you that right now he's shooting Snow White and the Seven Samurai?
No, but I know he's on something, but he hasn't revealed that. That's exciting.
I'm particularly excited about that one because it's sort of more of an action movie, which we don't do a lot of. So
yeah, and Snow White is all the talk at the moment, so you're definitely on the right train there. So your talent here, you've got Eric Roberts and Caroline Williams. They're your draw card names for Megalodon. The Asylum is so famous for boasting similar kinds of names, throughout the catalog. As a movie lover, do you geek out whenever these people rock up on set?
So first of all, of course I do. Second, at this point in time, my partners and we spend little to no time on set, and unfortunately, I don't, I rarely get to meet them. I do make it to Comic-Con, and we bring some actors along there, and that's when I finally get to meet them, and they're like, oh, you're the guy who's saying no to, you're the guy who's not paying us more. No, but definitely I'm a true fan, and am shaking in my shoes as I talk to them when I meet them. But it's pretty amazing, and all I want to do is sit there and have them tell me stories about back in the day.
Totally, that'd be me. I mean, have any of them sort of exceeded your expectations as far as being like decent human beings?
Let me tell a brief story before I answer that one, which I will as well.
Please.
The brief story is going back to the question is I was like sci-fi wanted to have us do a movie with or instead of Roger Corman, which was going to be Sharktopus, and he's like, screw them, I know how to make a movie. So we didn't get to, but I was all excited. I said, well, can we get to meet him anyway? And we did have lunch, and I wanted to hear all these stories, but all he wanted to talk about is, look, could you guys do some CGI for us? Just not reminiscing, just wanted to see, what kind
down to business.
But to answer your question, someone that comes to mind, I don't know how exciting this is because there isn't a great genre. He's not rich in a great genre history, but I will say that we worked with, and not on a movie, we brought him to a Red Box, which is it's a physical vending machine that we had. They might have tried it in Australia. I don't know.
They did.
Didn't travel. But anyway, we took it to an event there, took him, and this is Jim Belushi, and he jumped on stage, jammed with the band. And he just was someone who, and unlike a lot of who you meet in Hollywood, including me, just whatever he said and felt, that was it. I have to say. So Jim Belushi definitely comes to mind there. But there have been so many, and some that we just end up having, friendships with over the time. I will say that my partner, David Latt, who handles production, he, of course, has a much closer relationship with the cast. He's there on set more often and, usually extend the hands to meet them and so on.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great position to be in. There's been some incredible people that have passed through your doors. Ronnie Cox is a big one for me. Like, I would love to have met him.
Did not meet him, but...
Yeah. So, before we wrap up, one final question for you. Do you have a personal favorite Asylum movie?
Okay. So I think I should update my answer, but I know that one that I have always sort of, said, as a viewer, as a fan, I'm more excited about than maybe others. And it's going to be surprising because I do love romantic comedies, and the only time I'm able to get into that, aside from some Hallmark movies, is when we did these sexy comedies, and we did one called Number One Cheerleader Camp.
Yep, I've got it.
Just really sweet and charming. The leads have a great connection. There's some good dance sequences. We had a wonderful choreographer come in, charming and sexy and fun. There are many more that are near and dear. I will also say that many people were involved in this more than ever. But our spinoff to Z Nation called Black Summer, which was a Netflix exclusive, that really stands up as something that stylish, strong, stark.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree. That was like a really fantastic, it was a really good at the time alternative to Walking Dead when people were getting fatigued by that. This was something new and fresh and had that quality.
Before it, we referred to that as the Running Dead, sort of more action packed and
I love that. I love that. Well, David, thank you so much for hanging out and having a chat. Like, I've actually been wanting to do this for years, so I'm chuffed.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, reach out anytime. Brendan, who we talked about, and Anthony, who did the Sharknadoes, Ferranti works with us as well. And Michael Sue. So definitely reach out. I'm sure they'd be very excited.
We've had Anthony on our show, Good Movie Monday. Yeah. So he's great to chat with. And Michael, we're going to get him on very soon. But yeah, thank you for you being here. Really appreciate it.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size, and we're talking about movies that take place either on, around, somewhere around the water. This one's I know it's kind of a, and I sound like Kathleen Turner. It's kind of a big, broad topic, but
You don't
I
look
like
like
the
her.
water. I don't look like Kathleen Turner.
Well, you
I
do.
look more
You
like,
do. Kathleen Turner now.
I look more like Kathleen Turner now. That's accurate. A handsome woman. Handsome woman. I like the water. Would like to eventually live near the water. But when I brought up this idea, Chad was going back and forth about
It's
I
too
can't
broad.
remember the one.
It's too broad.
Why is it so tough for me to do this? Because the one I want to say is Jaws, but everyone likes Jaws except for Chad. It's a classic, but we've talked about it 100 times. So how do you pick a movie that takes place on the water that people don't hear about all the time?
Is that your pick?
No, I'm going back and forth because I can't make up my mind.
Okay,
I
I'll
can.
go.
You want me to go?
Yeah,
I can
James,
go.
you go, and then I'll go, and that'll give Joe plenty of time.
This movie has so many cool aquatic underwater scenes. It has everything else, so much so that G.I. Joe movie ripped it off and imitated it. I'm talking about the best,
Poseidon Adventure.
if not the best,
Poseidon Adventure.
James Bond films of all time, Thunderball.
The Poseidon Adventure.
That's not Thunderball. Thunderball's Thunderball, Joe.
And he strikes.
No, Thunderball has great underwater fight scenes. Underwater, it's not an ocean movie, but it has so many cool choreographed underwaters. It's just great. It also has the U.S. Coast Guard in it. What's not to love about that? See, it's got the military of the water people. No, Thunderball is, when I thought about water films, I was like, oh man, the final part of Thunderball may be one of the best uses of the ocean in a action film.
Well,
because it's well done.
Mine is going to be a little bit more of a throwback, and I'll jump ahead of Chad. Mine is 1944's Hitchcock's Lifeboat. And actually, I was thinking about this one.
Oh, that's a good one.
And
Yeah,
here's
it's
the
my-
reason why I'm going
It's
to
one
pick
of my top. If you had to give me, it would be my top 3 favorite Hitchcock films.
It's one of mine too. It's probably in at least the top 5 or 6. The reason why I'm going to go with this is that there's no music unless there's music at the beginning and then at the end. Bernard Herrmann he famously worked with so many times. They got in a argument about this because he was like, well, because Hitchcock was like, well, where would the orchestra be? They're on a lifeboat. And he was like, well, Mr. Hitchcock, where would the fucking camera be? Hitchcock was right. The music's at the end, the music's at the beginning, and he used a totally different composer because they fought over this. It's about people in a lifeboat during World War II, and nobody trusts one another. If you've never seen it, 10 Little Indians, 500 other books. I don't even think it's based on a book, but I think they actually got, if I'm not wrong, yes, I think one of the writers was Steinbeck for a split second. Check it out if you've never seen it. Hitchcock's Lifeboat.
Now, see, you guys went broad. You did the whole ocean.
They prefer the term women.
You did the whole ocean. I'm going to go smaller. I'm just going to put the water in a basement.
Penis.
Now, you guys are saying, Chad, water in a basement. What's the big deal? Well, then you add
That's
alligators.
expensive to fix, I tell you that.
Well, then you add alligators. I'm talking about Crawl.
That's a really good movie.
It really is. 2019's Crawl. It's about a woman who's trying to find her father in the middle of a hurricane.
It shouldn't be a good movie.
It shouldn't be. And it's really, really short at 1 hour and 27 minutes.
Bless him.
But you go, and she goes and goes to her old home and finds her father trapped in a basement, injured. And then that's when it revealed they are literally surrounded by alligators, and they are going to do anything they can to eat these two people. And they're trying to survive in a small basement, crawling through a flood as the waters are rising around them. It is an intense, great film. And just looking at the trailer and the poster, you go, this is hokey as hell. It is not. It is it's terrifying. It is claustrophobic. And I've never wanted to eat an alligator steak more to get back at those fuckers.
Well, okay. I don't know about terrifying claustrophobic, but it is a really good B
It's
movie.
claustrophobic.
It's a really good B movie.
Another good one, by
As
the
a
way.
man who suffers from claustrophobia, I don't remember having it, but it is a good B movie. And it just moves like this.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't
Another good one,
Lifeboat.
by the way, is 1957's The Enemy Below. Speaking of ocean and tents.
And
Robert
with
mentioned.
that, below Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
That right there is the final Bonehead fun size for the year. Thank you, Boneheads. And of course, they will be on next week's show with all of us together to send the year off with a bang.
They're going to be up quite early for that show.
Oh, yeah, I know it. I think the time we record that, it's going to be like a 3 a.m. thing for them, as it has been in the past few years.
Yeah.
Maybe next year I'll be a bit more generous.
Because it's 3 a.m. on their Friday morning.
Yeah.
It's not even their
So
Saturday.
that's a work day for them.
It's a work day.
Far out.
They don't have jobs. They all work in universities. They don't have to go in at any 9 o'clock or anything like that.
Please do go and find the Bonehead weekly podcast. You can find it anywhere you can get good podcasts. Jump on their social medias, give them a like and a share and a comment and all that kind of stuff. We do appreciate it. And now, Ben, on to a creature feature of another kind, Slaughterhouse. What needs to be said? Nearly everybody on social media has probably crossed this. At least the people that listen to this show have probably heard of Slaughterhouse.
Look, I think, and I talk about it in the interview briefly.
Yeah.
But I was in Cannes when they were pitching this, and it was like 100%. The minute I saw the title come up on the trailer, I was like, yes, 100% yes.
And we've seen the film and we both enjoyed it thoroughly. So Matthew Goodhue is the director. We're going to pick his brain right now. Enjoy.
All right. Oh, well, Matthew, very excited to be chatting with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Look,
Great to meet you both.
Slaughterhouse, far out, man. Like, people tend to have really strong reactions to these sort of movies, one way or the other, I guess. How have you found the reception to be? Do most people get it?
At the start, it was like we got some really fun, positive, exciting kind of reviews and articles and whatnot. And things have sort of balanced since, which, again, as you brought up, it's like when you make a movie like this, you sort of know people are going to love it or like really hate it. And I've sort of seen that. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is so much fun. We watch it with a group of friends and blah, blah, blah. Or people say, that cinema is dying and it's our fault. Well, it's like, oh man, I hope we don't do that because movies are important. But I do get, it's not a movie for everybody, and like that's okay. That's what's great about genre. It's like the people that love it will hopefully like champion it and try to show their friends, and
Well, I was in Cannes when I think I was at the Raven banner stand. Does that sound right? Where I saw the poster and the teaser for it.
Oh, really? Oh,
and
my God!
I was immediately like, yes. Like I was there with my two colleagues from work, and we were like 20 seconds in where they were like, this is your kind of movie.
Oh, amazing!
You're definitely talking to the right people here. This is our wheelhouse.
That's great. I mean, like, to be honest, like I wouldn't have thought that I would ever make this movie. I love creature feature, animal attack stuff, but it wasn't sort of on my radar of what I wanted to kind of try to make next. And probably similar to you, it's like I saw the title of the movie and I was like, all right, like I'm intrigued. I want to know more. And definitely in terms of just like the tone of the movie, we hope if people look at the title and see any image from the movie, we kind of hope people are like down for the cause. It's like we're trying to embrace the ridiculousness of this type of a film, and we hope if you're getting ready to sit and watch a movie called Slaughterhouse, like you're sort of in that mindset to begin with.
So where does the conception come from? Like, I imagine it's 10 beers deep. It's a conversation. Like, imagine how does it all come together?
I got brought in, like the script was written, money was raised. I was pretty lucky where it was just like, hey, will you pitch on this project? But I know the writer, Brad Fowler, I think he's, been an actor. He's an actor. He's a writer, and I think he's just kind of was sick and tired of the grind of trying to get projects off the ground. So the story that I know is that he and a friend in Florida, I think, as you said, probably had 10 beers and were like, "How the hell do you get a movie made? It seems like everything that's being made is just the dumbest idea you could think of." And then I think Brad was like, "Okay, what's the dumbest movie I could think of?" And sloths are popular creatures in the world today in pop culture. So, I gotta say, when they I kind of read this story and heard, the concept, I was kind of shocked that it didn't exist already. Like making a movie called Slaughterhouse.
I mean, how do
fun.
the actors react? You get these people on board. Like, do they get it off the bat, or I can't imagine being an actor going, "How the hell am I supposed to play this?"
I think we got really lucky because we didn't have any rehearsal time. Where this is a much bigger movie for me, but in the scheme of things, it was still, a small budget movie. So a lot of our actors, so we filmed in Serbia. A good chunk of our actors came from the UK. We had a couple local Belgrade actors and a couple from the States. But the main kind of the principals were from the UK, and they probably, I think they came with like a couple days before we started filming, so we didn't get to do like a sit down table read or anything. But what I tried to express to them was just like how I feel horror comedies work best is like you have a ridiculous, ludicrous concept, and everybody within the movie is taking it seriously. Like the stakes need to feel real, as silly as they are. Mm-hmm. And our actors, I thought just did a really great job. They took it seriously, and a lot of them come from theater training and are like really talented, gifted actors. And what was great was like they were game to be a part of such a silly story. But I think they really brought, drama to it, and like an acting skill set that sometimes these movies don't tend to have. So we didn't have a ton of rehearsal time, but I think we got lucky in the sense that I think everybody kind of knew what movie it was that we were making, which is sort of the advice I've been given is like stories, and whatever sort of like cautionary tales is like the hardest thing is to make sure everyone's making the same movie.
I was legitimately struck by how good looking this film is. Like, it is a really smart, savvy looking slasher. Of course, you've got the intentionally stupid premise, but what was the conversation about how this should look?
I mean, I like, again, kind of talking on that first question about reactions, like some people have been like, these movies should look like shit, they should look like people have no idea what they're doing, and it's like, I don't know how many chances I'm gonna get to make movies, so like if I get a chance, I want to do a good job. Like I want it to look really good. I love, like, my favorite part of making films, beyond like post-production is probably number one, but like designing the movie in terms of the production design and your shot selection and trying to kind of have rules for when the camera moves or what we do with the camera. Like that stuff is, I love that stuff. I get really excited when you watch a movie and like it's just like there's clear intention behind what you're seeing. So it's like that excites me immensely. So that was like, what I love that part of the process. And working with the DP, Mark David, who is like a very seasoned DP. He's shot so many movies and he's a director himself. It was really fun to kind of work with him and try to, develop a language for the movie. Sort of the simple like explanation that we sort of had was like, we want sort of the first half of the movie to feel like a Hollywood studio like comedy. Like it's like kind of the colors are a little more saturated, it's brighter, the whites are really popping, and then we sort of transition into a horror movie. And we looked a lot at like Hereditary in terms of just like color palette and kind of shot selection, and specifically like the moonlight color. Hereditary, it's like that final sequence, it's like this really nice like silver type of moonlight with like kind of a little bit of green in it. So yeah, we kind of looked at those like, let's have a studio comedy that turns into a horror movie. And try to make it look good.
When we talk to Ari Aster, we'll have to tell him that he influenced Slaughterhouse.
I mean, I think everybody wants to make Ari Aster movies who's making trying to break into horror these days. But yeah, I mean, he's the best. I can't wait to see what he does next.
As far as animals that lend themselves well to puppetry, sloth have got to be the greatest. Like, they are made to be puppets. Did you go through various designs or anything like that? Did you have versions of it? Because the one you've landed on is fantastic.
We didn't have a ton of time to develop the puppetry. So, I think from the start, it starts with like reference images and stuff, and not just images of sloths online and whatnot, but like looking at popular memes and all that stuff. That's like, we also very much knew like we wanted Alpha to be incredibly cute, and we all kind of agreed that the sloth you see in the film, which is a three-toed sloth, like those seem to be kind of the cutest. They just have kind of the most like distinct facial features, and we were all kind of quickly in agreement like that the three-toed sloth, because of the face, the fur, and also like the three claws, like that was the type of sloth we wanted to go with. And then, it was working with Creature Effects, who are based in LA, who did the design, who are super talented puppeteers and manufacturers, like really just going, back and forth with photographs. And we went to like a sanctuary in Los Angeles and like met a couple sloths and got to see how they move, which was exciting. And they truly don't do anything. So it was like, oh wow. Like we were there for like 3 or 4 hours and they didn't move. And it was like, okay, like kind of hoping we'd get an idea of like how the puppet can move, but there's enough like video footage and stuff.
I kind of got the impression, and I could be completely off, but that he's a mix between the dirty old man from anime kind of cartoons like Wicked City and stuff like that, and like Mac from Mac and Me. Little bit of Gizmo
like, from Gremlins in there too.
Like especially in like that. There's the great scene where they're playing dodgeball, and he's like. Tiff Stevenson is kind of holding him, and he's got but he's blowing the whistle.
Oh yeah,
he's got the hat on and everything.
I mean, it's like we, the early conversations we wanted the puppet to look real, but we also knew it's only gonna look so real. Like there's never gonna be a moment where people are like, "Is that a real sloth?" It's like, so we wanted to get sort of the size correct, the weight correct, the hair correct, and then, we're trying to embrace the fact that this is a puppet. So the actors are all gonna treat Alpha as if she's a real sloth, but the audience.
I did at the start of the film when he's reaching for the leaf and then gets. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's the first terribly convinced.
You thought it was a real sloth?
Into the lake, until he crawls out, he kind of crawls out of the thing. I was like, "Is that a real?"
Oh, good. That's
I thought it was
Whereas I was thinking, is that Christoph Waltz?
But it is the thing. At some point, it's like, we spent so much time with this puppet. You're like, I don't know how anybody is going to react to this, because we again, speaking to kind of like, didn't have a ton of prep time and stuff. It's like we didn't have our sloth on site in Serbia with us like until a couple days before filming, and the sloth wasn't fully ready. So like the first time we saw Alpha on camera, like we didn't even get to do camera tests and stuff, which like we all wanted to do, but it's just timing and money and all that stuff. Like when you're making a smaller budget movie, it's just like everything goes wrong. But so the first day we've shot with the puppet was when Alpha is, not to give anything away, but it's in the trailer, but Alpha drives a car. So the first time we see Alpha on the monitor is like pulling her hands up and being behind a wheel, and we're all looking at each other being like, does this work? Like, It was like we were all laughing, so we were like, that has to be positive. Like and once you get like the wind blowing and her hair's flowing back, it's like I think it's working. We're here. We have to film it.
That's
so
a good bench level to set, though. Like, start off there, and then
it was. Yeah, it was like might as well start off with kind of the most ridiculous moment in the movie.
I've heard like a lot of the time when actresses shoot sex scenes, they're always right at the start of the production, and it's always super awkward. But I think like that, you want to get that stuff out of the way first, because if that doesn't work, then the rest of the film's not going to work. So it's good to start
completely. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. If no one was laughing and we were all just like, oh man, we would have had to pivot, and we definitely had that conversation, sort of having the Jaws conversation of like, okay, if this really doesn't work, are we going to try to do the thing where we don't see Alpha? And none of us wanted that. It was like, this is the main character, as much as Emily is sort of at the heart of the movie, it's like Alpha is, we don't want to hide Alpha throughout this movie. It's like if this movie is titled Slaughterhouse and it is about a sloth that attacks these people, like, we have to show her.
Well, you 100% pulled it off, according to us. Like, we loved it.
Thank you so much.
In the last few months, we've spoken to the directors of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and The Mean One,
Amazing.
and they both said that they intend to make more of these movies. What about you? Is this a wave that you're willing to ride?
I mean, I would love to be able to make another one. I mean, I think I learned so much on this, and the puppeteering is something like I really loved working with the puppeteers on site, and would love to just find ways to push it more,
Well, capybaras are really popular right now, so
yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I would love to, get the chance to, because of course, like, I don't know if the directors of those films you just spoke about it mention it, but like, you finish a movie and like, there's a very long list of things you wish you did differently, or it's just like, oh, next time I'm going to do this. And so it's like, to be able to get to, work in that same world again and try to improve on it and try, and Alpha, I think, is like a pretty awesome character, and I would love to help, continue her story and see where she goes next, and try to, just push it more. I would love to see like what other crazy stuff we could do.
Well, I feel like you've kind of set it up, because the end of the film, with that, once again, it's a spoiler, but Alpha's back in the jungle, and you kind of, you tee it up with the girl taking a selfie with him and stuff, with her, sorry. And so for me, it's the perfect lead into like the Die Hard 2.
Slaughterhouse.
How could the same damn thing happen to the same damn sloth?
Yeah.
It's the tagline right there.
So hard to get movies made, so I hope this movie gets kind of enough traction behind it where it's like we get the chance to do another one, because I know we would all be super excited for that opportunity, because I know like the Winnie the Pooh, like I'm excited to see that second one, like especially just like bigger, like the makeup from that one image I saw, like it looks really good, like,
but this time with less
pants. He learned so much. What's that?
But this time with less pants.
Yeah.
Who doesn't wear pants?
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure when you guys spoke to that director, it's like, I'm sure he learned so much, you know, on that first one. And it's like, to be able to, you're not necessarily like redoing what you did, but it's just like you hopefully have a bit of a fan base who's like excited to see this new one. And the hardest thing is getting your movie seen. So it's like, if you can make a film that already has a bit of a, some fans behind it, it's like that's so exciting.
Thanks so much for making time to have a chat with us. Slaughterhouse is so much fun, and everyone we listen should go and get your hands on this movie. Watch it; it is fantastic. It looks great.
If you can watch it
funny.
with friends too, it's a good friend. And from what I've read on Letterboxd, friends, not condoning alcohol, but if you have like, I guess if you have drinks, it can it can be fun. But yeah, it's like the goal with the movie was to just make a really fun, silly, entertaining, like all the way through.
Mission accomplished, mate.
Movie.
Mission accomplished.
That was the goal. So thank you so much. That means a lot.
Awesome. Well, we'll sign off here. Take care of yourself. We look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much.
There we go. If you enjoyed that chat, then please do head over to our Facebook page or YouTube, because there's a full version of that chat, because that was a fairly long chat that we had with him, and there's a whole lot of extra stuff that didn't make it into the show. So please check out our Facebook page. Thanks to Matthew Goodhue for hanging out with us. Brings us to the end of an episode, Ben.
It does. A weird, almost non-end.
What do you mean?
Well, we're not doing recommendations, so it doesn't feel.
Same length for the listeners.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel the same for us.
Yeah, but hey, we kind of recommended double features.
We had those double features. That's true.
That was fun. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. Please join us next week. It is our final episode for 2023. Everybody that you hear on the show will be there. It's going to be an all-in brawl.
Orgy?
Take your pick.
An all-in audio orgy.
Yeah, in your ear holes. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Hey,
more entertaining than those earwax camera
TikTok videos.
Which I am seriously thinking about asking someone to get me for Christmas.
Yeah, totally.
But I'm terrified at what I'll find.
Oh, speaking of TikTok, please follow our TikTok page as well. Comment on that, all the fun stuff that we do.
Because you know the next place it goes.
Yeah. Hang on, there's two options.
there's a couple of options. I'll just leave it up to you to decide which one I'm going to use.
So as promised, way back in our chat with Jarrett, it's that Italian gibberish song. It's by Adriano Cilantro. I don't even know how to pronounce this song, but
so good.
Let's just say it's how he thinks Americans sound. See you next week.
Later. Bye.
Shoes now, whole building scene in a whole red maybe get the color boss dying. Chance and behind me get a cold, baby, stay yet, Bill Joe. We the stay in the shoes now, whole building scene in a whole red maybe get the color boss dying. When it's the same way, you can't be seen. You never tell me, never just God believe it's a shame. You the cover not choose, not right, but not sure. Hope this again, not the cover, no time. Oh, but if it's a stand, light the shoes, go, my man. You can trust to the man, called your radio girls. Oh, Sunday. Contained, left face to go. We the seeing in the stand, and the shoes are coming in. This is 200 cars that over 4 world the guy to stake. I my chance, let ain't a hill so go and breathe up. You the call and made us say one piece in coordination I do so alright. You know, I'm feeling sick, you got them and don't. That's baby, that's the light of taking you. Eyes, my sense, and you got some with pizza. Eyes. You can call me to see one precinct calling, it's not too so alright. You know, I'm feeling sick, you got them and don't. That's baby, that's the light of taking you.